conference. We will start with short remarks from each of the ministers, starting with Norway, then followed by Saudi Arabia, Palestine, and then Jordan. Minister, the floor is yours.
So I would like to start, and I would like to share with you that we've had an excellent conversation today between this group of Arab and Muslim ministers of foreign affairs who are now been visiting systematically a number of countries. I think it was to Beijing, to Moscow, to London, Paris, Washington, and Ottawa. And then Prince Faisal and I spoke together, and we agreed to have a Nordic Arab meeting. And then I suggested that we also invite the Benelux countries, Belgium, the Netherlands, and Luxembourg, to which you all agreed, and they have also been here. So we had a very interesting set of Minister of Foreign Affairs and a Prime Minister discussing the situation in Gaza. And what I can say is that we all share a very strong recognition of how terrible this situation is. Around 19,000 people have been killed in Gaza alone, on top of the 1,200 Israelis that perished by the terrorist attack from Hamás. An immense, more than 50,000 people are injured. Those who are not injured, many of those are now suffering from lack of clean water, lack of food, lack of medical facilities and medicine, and we're seeing infectious diseases. And we're also seeing a very dramatic development in the West Bank, which politically may be as dramatic as the drama in Gaza itself. So this is something we agree about, and we all all say very clearly that this has to stop. But even more importantly, in this conversation, we've had a very interesting exchange on what to do next, because we have a today problem, which is the acute situation. But there is no way out of that without somebody starting to think about what next. And of course, this meeting was not to agree or to firm a document, sign a document or anything like that. But we heard several good ideas on the way forward, which at least I, and I think all my fellow Nordic and Benelux ministers felt were really interesting, really promising, and we very much encourage this group to continue its consultations. We want to continue to be part of it, because there has to be a dialogue between people who really want peace, peace for Palestine, peace for Israel, peace for the Middle East, and the only good thing, if I may say so, in this terribly dramatic situation is that it's exactly in these type of situations where new ideas can emerge. So we hope to contribute to that, and that's why we were here today.
Please, Saudi Arabia.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Excellency. Thank you, first of all, for hosting us today and for convening the Nordic and the Benelux countries for this very, very important conversation in a very difficult time. As you have already outlined the situation in Gaza, we have now almost 19,000 killed, 75% of them women and children. So the message continues to be clear from us as Arab and Muslim groups that we need a ceasefire now, and we need immediate, full and unrestricted humanitarian access. And on the ceasefire, we saw just recently that the United Nations General Assembly, with a very clear voice, with over 150 countries speaking as one, calling for such a ceasefire. So clearly the international community has spoken, and I hope that we can implement that desire of the international community. One of the things that we have noted in our travels that you alluded to, Minister, is that there is, I think, a growing understanding that we cannot talk about what next in the context of Gaza, and that is the same conversation we had to do. We need to talk about what is next in the context of Palestine, and we need to find a pathway out of this cycle of violence. And there, we all know what needs to be, what needs to happen. What needs to happen is the establishment of a Palestinian state. We have known this for decades. It's time to bring that into action. So thank you, Your Excellency, for the very, very engaging conversation that we had today, and thank you also for Norway's continued commitment to peace in the Middle East and everywhere, and I hope we will be able to continue this conversation going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Palestine, please.
Thank you. I would like to thank Espen for hosting us As I agree with him that the meeting was very useful, very open, frank, and very positive in terms of bringing some ideas, to deal with the situation that we all face, in Gaza. I bring with me, the plight of my people, the death, the destruction, massacre, slaughtering of my innocent people, children and women that have been slaughtered, in Gaza by the hundreds and by the thousands. The destruction, total destruction, with the objective of eliminating the presence of Palestinians in Gaza, wiping out, not necessarily Hamas, but wiping out the Palestinian people and trying to make Gaza uninhabitable. This is really the real objective of Israeli waging war against such innocent people in Gaza. Self-defense has been translated into the killing of such innocent people, and that's really the interpretation that Israel understood from such situation. What we are looking for is immediate and permanent ceasefire. What we are looking for is the end of the Israeli aggression. What we are looking for is, uninterrupted entrance of humanitarian aid to Gaza that will reach all of Gaza, south and north, to everybody, to everywhere, without any interruption or control by Israel. What we are looking for is to try really to rebuild the health system that has collapsed completely. What we are trying to do is really to prevent the spread of all epidemic diseases. What we are trying to do is to end the collective punishment by Israel against the people in Gaza. What we are trying to do is to prevent the starvation and thirst from being, a weapon of war against our people in Gaza. What we are trying to do is to prevent, the displacement of Palestinians from their homes into the south and from the south into, Sinai. What we're trying to do here is really to provide protection to the people, innocent people in Gaza. I think this is really very important, elements that, I believe that there is consensus, about that, and everybody is trying to do his utmost in their own ways to make sure that this is really the case in Gaza. The time is of great essence. As we delay our reaction, as we delay our move into such action, then, we'll see more innocent civilians being really killed in Gaza. This is really very important, decision to be taken. And I agree with Espen that, what's happening in the West Bank is not any less important and dangerous than what's happening really in Gaza. The Israeli military and settlers are trying really to drag us into a confrontation, into violence, and into destruction. And they are using, different tactics in order to do that. I think, it's very important that, we take necessary measures in order to prevent any deterioration of the situation in the West Bank and to keep the West Bank out of violence.
Minister, thank you. Then Jordan, please.
Thank you so much. And again, I want to start by echoing my colleagues' appreciation of my dear friend from Minister Espen for hosting us today. And we met at the same room where the Oslo Accords were negotiated and agreed. And I cannot but say, ask everybody to think, had Oslo Accords been implemented, will we be where we are today? And I think the logical answer is no. And the question should be, why did we not get to the place that the Oslo Accords wanted us to go? And the simple answer is because Israel reneged on its commitments. The Oslo Accords were made on the basis of the land for peace formula. Israel is no longer committed to the land for peace formula. The Oslo Accords were supposed to be a transition a short transition to a Palestinian state where the Palestinian people would live with dignity, with freedom, side by side, and Israel that is also secure and accepted. That did not happen. On the contrary, we see occupation being consolidated, we see the promise of peace killed, we see Palestinian land confiscated, we see settlements undermining the viability of the two-state solution. We see an Israeli government that is bluntly, openly saying no to the Palestinian people's right to self-determination, no to Palestinian statehood, no to Palestinian freedom. It's against this backdrop that we should look at what's happening now, not in isolation of that history, which was full with missed opportunity. Where do we go from here is a question that's very, very important. But before we answer that question, we should deal with the now, and we should stop an aggression whose consequences is the destruction of a whole community, the killing of children, the killing of women, the destruction of hospitals, of schools, of streets, of residential areas, and the killing of faith in peace. A faith that took us 30 years to build. All that is being undermined now. So, the priority is the moment. The priority of the moment is to stop this aggression, stop the killing, stop the destruction, allow sufficient humanitarian supplies so that Palestinians can have food, can have water, so that hospitals can have anesthesia, so that pain children can have an aspirin to ease the pain. Once we do that, then we see how do we make sure that this never happens again. And the only way for this not to happen again is to achieve the two-state solution that would fulfill the Palestinian people's right to freedom and statehood on their ancestral land in accordance with the many terms of reference of which Oslo is a pillar, and that would allow for Israel to live in a peace that accepts it and that allows for Palestinians and Israeli people to look to a future where there can be no war, there can be no more killing, but there are chances and opportunities for everybody to come together and achieve a peace. That is the right of everybody in the region. There are tough questions, there are tough issues. Now we deal with the immediate. To get to that peace requires all of us coming together, and today was an opportunity for us to discuss how we can all pool our resources to do what's simply right. And what's simply right is to solve the conflict on the basis of the two-state solution and to deny radicals who are saying no to the two-state solution the opportunity to define and doom our future to more conflict and to more death and to more destruction. The Israeli government now, which is saying no to the two-state solution, which is refusing the PNA as a partner, is acting on a radical agenda, the consequences of which we've seen manifest themselves in the past few years. We cannot allow that to dictate. The forces of peace need to come together to realize the right of every Palestinian woman and child, every Israeli woman and child, every woman and child in the region and beyond to live in peace without fear of war, without fear of a checking point that steals their future. That is what we need to do, and we're fully committed to working with our partners in Norway, in Nordic countries, in Benelux countries, in Europe, in the United States, everywhere, to realize that peace, because without that peace, conflict will continue to doom the future, and many, many, many more people will suffer. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. And Iceland, please.
Yeah, let me start by also echoing thanks to both His Highness for reaching out and to Espen also for creating the venue and responding so quickly. And it has been an encouraging day in a historical setting, at a historical venue, so to speak. which has relations to the situation which we are discussing today. What brings us together is the desire to see peace brought to the people in the area, that we all agree that the fighting must stop, humanitarian aid brought to those in dire need, and the discussion was also about the future of the region under a two-state solution. Now, we were able today to exchange ideas, but also evaluations, which is extremely important. Difficult times like this, it is invaluable to have the opportunity to come together and listen, but also to ask questions and participate in a dialogue which happens in an environment which is constructive, as we found today. Not only did we discuss what could be done today or tomorrow, but also there was the exchange of ideas for the longer future, which I can say for myself at least, brings me to a point where you are more hopeful when you leave this meeting compared to when I arrived. Obviously, the difficulties are enormous, which we are facing, but the start of a long journey is always one step. So many seeds have been thrown out today. Maybe we all feel that the grounds are not very fertile, but we just have to continue throwing out seeds, and one day I think roots will be shot into the ground and something will happen. And I'm much more hopeful for that after having this meeting today. And I again thank you to those that have made this happen.
Thank you.